Sarah, thanks so much for joining me.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk about the stuff we're going to talk
There's
about
so many
today.
good things to talk about. You are such a valuable resource that I'm excited to dive in. You are our last speaker on day one. We saved the best for last in our nutrition coaching symposium here. So I'm excited to pick your brain, especially mindset, behavior change, and how to be an effective coach, how to get our people to do the right things. I get the sense from you that when you created your coaching business in Hard House Nutrition, you didn't want it just to be about handing someone over a plan and saying, go get to it. How did you come to this place?
Okay. I shouldn't say never. When I started, I didn't even want to coach. Like that was never part of the plan. And when COVID shut down, I was home. I was still getting paid for my job. I worked in a school. And so the stimulus checks were coming out and I'm like, you know what, let me just get a notch in my belt and go start some certifications. Because I thought coaching was about dishing out macros and workout plans. And that I was like, that doesn't sound like a fun time to me. So I went through the cert and I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's more to coaching than macros. It is like a holistic biopsychosocial approach. And I was like, wait a minute, I haven't been getting this in any of my like one-on-one coaching experiences as the client. Like I have felt like the coaching I received was so ineffective to help me with my own issues. And I've, talked about on social media in my past, like having overeating issues, sabotage, stopping and starting, which I feel like is most people. And so through that certification process, I was like, oh, well, I need to do more for this industry to help coaches. And I'm like, I want to not just get into coaching and help people, but I want to have a team behind me who we're all on this mission together to be better at this, to actually help people have higher success rates. Because the stats are kind of abysmal, right? Like what is the average retention for a client is like 3 months, 4 months industry standard, I think. And the stats for weight regain is 80%. Like we can do better. So that is what started the journey. And then here we are 5 years later. I have a team of, I think 5 coaches right now. We're hiring for a 6th. Like we're doing, that's kind of what led me to A to B.
Amazing. That's so powerful. And I love that, like, you just saw gaps in this stuff. And then through your own experience, you could work that type of stuff. And what you said you were teaching at a school, like what were you doing before? And then maybe you're still doing it, but.
No, I was just working in the office in the guidance office, doing a lot of like career stuff with high school students. So I hated it though. So I wanted to, I don't care where I went. I wanted something different. But then, like I said, once I figured out kind of my own issues and the gaps there, I was like, that more people need to know about this.
I love that. Here's what I know, Sarah, about you and your coaching. I go over your content and I feel like I want to be a different coach. And I think that's a powerful thing in terms of just like acknowledging that we have gaps and things that we need to do. So I really, even stuff you posted today, which I'll link up your social media accounts and stuff around like maybe how delayed gratification isn't such a bad thing and how small goals can actually like maybe be too small and set us back and those type of things. Where do you get this type of information and learn about it? Is it peer reviewed science? Is it working through coaching models? Is it other certifications? Like how do we come across this stuff?
So it started with the health mindset coaching certification, which I started as a student and now I teach inside it. Like I became so obsessed with the content that Casey, she is a PhD in psychology. She knows the stuff. She heavily researched. She's a published researcher. Being mentored by her and being steered in the direction of like who these lead researchers are. I go and read their work and I listen to their YouTube videos. Because I'm just a coach and I don't have training to read research papers, I be careful by staying in my own lane because I wouldn't be able to really articulate kind of mechanisms in research papers. I'd be speaking out of scope, but I do go and look for who are the leading researchers in the fields that I care about, like motivation, behavior change, how do we stick to plan, self-sabotage, eating psychology. I look for those like bigwigs that we trust, who have decades of experience, and what do they have to say? How does this look like applying in the real world, not just in a lab with people? So really the gateway is HMCC, that certification, which opened up my world. And then of course we do extensive training with coaches in there. So I could definitely provide you a list. I for sure have a list of like, here are my favorite people I love listening to for like motivation and habits and all of that. I could share it with you and with everybody else who wants to learn more.
Amazing. That would be really, really helpful. I think you're saying I got to be careful about my scope. I think you got to be careful about your language here. You said I'm just a coach and not a researcher. I think, is there an argument to be made around you're probably closer to the people that we need to help than some of the bigwigs in academia? Like maybe they're a bit more far removed. They give us, the true scientific process around what matters, but like you're in the trenches. I think if anything, you're closer to how we're going to help people. So what do you make of that?
I get this feedback all of the time. And so they're like, Sarah, you need to watch your language. I do hear this a lot. And because actually recently I spoke about body image and I was sharing a stage with people who are highly educated. I am not on the same playing field as them. And so I did have this like sense of imposter syndrome, but the feedback I kept getting is, Sarah, but you've lived it. Like you have lived experience and you are very careful of like what you read and you don't just take anything off the internet. Like your cert didn't come from social media, right? Like you're truly wanting to be and possess like the correct information as far as it could be correct. But yeah, I do think my lived experience definitely helps me with clients because I can read between the lines better. They can say one thing and I'm like, but is it actually this? And they're like, yes.
Without a doubt. I think even just so your lived experience, one thing, but also just being close to like coaching others through it, right? Like I can tell you being on the other side of academia, like sometimes you can be pretty siloed in terms of like red tape and how do we apply this? And it's so far removed from actually helping people that like, it's just like, there's not much change there, but I think you're on the front lines of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually it speaks to something that I shared earlier of, this may work in a lab, but does it apply to like real world scenarios? I wish I had an example because I thought of it this morning of, gosh, if I think of it, I'll let you know because cool. I was like, yeah, in theory this should work, but it's not in real. Oh, can I just like die? Can I just like word vomit for a second?
Yeah, no, totally. I like riff off for a second. I was going to ask you another question. I knew you were going to come to it anyway. So go for it. Riff off. Let's hear it.
Something that I've been kind of pushing back recently is using language like fat loss phase and maintenance phase, like phasic language. And I can make an argument for why this is useful and why we can use it with clients. And I still, use it with some clients. But I think in practice and seeing it more broadly used, it's not having the effect that we intended to. Like, okay, you can lose weight and be in a structured season of like losing weight and then you maintain it, but that is not what we're seeing happening. So that's just like an example of, in theory, this language could be helpful, but in reality, it's not producing the effects that we want. So I could talk about that for a long time, but that's just one example that came up.
Let's talk about this for more time because I think it's interesting. Do you think there's a difference between what we do in terms of marketing our coaching and getting people to open doors versus what we do on the actual back end of change? And if those things aren't exactly the same, like, do you find like, is that unethical or can we talk in phasic language, for example, to get someone to open a door and then realize, hey, I'm doing the things now. This is different than what I thought would be. And now I'm in a better place. Is there room for that? Do you feel?
Maybe, probably. I would need to think about this a little bit more, but so here's an example. I'm going to get a little bit above the heads of some people here for a sec. There is this model that I use as our coaching framework called the stages of change. And if you read from the co-founders of this model, they say that behavior change on average takes around 6 months of like consistent regular effort. And really, once you get to that 6 to 9 month, things start to feel a little easier. Like it's still effortful, but it starts to feel a little bit easier. So I talk about that on social media where I'm like, we kind of need to expect and you need to prepare for 6 months of concerted effort in action. This isn't going to be something that's easy in 21 days or 3 months. But on the back end, when I'm coaching people, it's actually not as straightforward as 6 months. It's not as linear, and maybe some things do start to feel easier by 3 months. Maybe it actually takes closer to 9 months to a year because our lives are very complex. I don't know about you, but I mean, I have kids. Like my life is not stable year round. Like we have different seasons approach. Kids come home from summer. And so we have to be able to address those hiccups or that seasonality of life that may make the change to actually take longer than what we expect. So that's kind of like my example. I don't know how I'd feel about fat loss phase, like using on social media and then talking it differently behind the scenes. I don't know. I haven't fleshed that out yet.
Yeah, I think it's just it's one of those things where I think sometimes it's almost like fat loss can be like a gateway change around, like, people see like that's what I need to do. I need to do this for a period of time. I start doing it. Now I'm lifting weights and watching what I eat and improving my nutrition, and this looks different from me. I just wonder if that's like a thing that you see in terms of like, maybe that's, if we speak in language that maybe people understand, it opens a door for them.
Yeah, maybe. But I also wonder, and again, I'm still kind of like teasing this out with you in real time, really, is I wonder if people deserve more of that nuance too. Like, I'm wondering, I think on the one hand, can we reach people with more like simplistic language, things that they understand? Sure. But also, does it work? And is it working? And I guess that would be the thing I would want to see. And I don't currently see it, but I also wonder if that's just because their clients aren't getting the fuller picture behind the scenes. Do coaches really know what the people who lose weight and keep it off have in common? Like, for example, I hear a lot of like, it's not about exercise, it's about calorie deficit through nutrition. But if you look at weight maintenance, one of the major commonalities that those people have is that they live active lifestyles. We have to talk about that. So does your client, can they walk away from your coaching, know what it takes, like truly to keep off lost weight? What leads to weight regains? Usually disinhibited eating. They don't know how to manage stress or distress. They lack self-coaching, really, like some of those like skills or troubleshooting skills. They tend to leave also with all or nothing thinking, which we know is a big influence in putting on weight. So are we working on those things with clients is a question I would ask. So I don't know if I actually answered that question, or that's just kind of like my stream of consciousness on this topic.
I think you answered it. And I think you're like adding to I think there's just a lot of things to like think about, tease out, think about what really matters here. And I think as long as we're all working on them and at least aware of them, it's like we get to a better place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt. With that being said, the model that you're presenting, super cool. So many people know what they need to be doing and they still have a hard time doing it. What is that? Is that structure? Is it mindset? Is it like what do we need to focus on as coaches to like get them doing the things?
I think there's a couple things there. One question I have is, do people actually know what to do? I think in theory, they know that eating healthy and exercising is good for them, but do they know how to get themselves to do that? It's not as obvious or intuitive as we think. So, and I don't know about like the clients that you would work with, but some of our clients come to us with some misinformed ideas of what this looks like, whether it's like fasting for atrophy or, just some of these things where I'm like, that's not it. That's not going to be it.
You got to clean those cells out, Sarah. You got to clean them out.
we got to worry about mitochondria health. I'm like,
where's your janitor at? Your janitor's cleaning out your cells and stuff. Do you head nod, or do you be like, well, whoa. Like, how do we navigate that situation?
Oh gosh. I don't know if I can answer it like right off the bat, because if I got that in a check-in, I'm waiting like 20 minutes as I think through it, because it's tough. You don't want clients to leave feeling dumb or ineffective or incompetent, right? I do know that there would potentially be some permission asking. Like, this was really interesting. I don't know if I would say interesting, because you don't want to be like, I don't know what the word is, dismissive or something, but it's like, I have a perspective or some ideas to share with you if you're open to them, and seeing if I can kind of segue the conversation that way without telling them that they're wrong would be kind of the way that I answer that. But, back to your original question is I've been obsessed with that answer from day one, because I knew what to do and I couldn't get myself to do it. And I thought it was a discipline problem. And that's just not supported by behavior change research. If we continue to harp on the discipline, we're going to be stuck. We're not going to be effective coaches. One of my colleagues, and she's brilliant, she has a PhD in psychology as well, actually dropped this morning and I loved it. And she's like, if you can run a 6-minute mile, like you and I can think about what it takes to run a 6-minute mile. You're kind of cycling your feet really fast. But there's a difference if you can run a 6-minute mile and then you're asking me why I can't run a 6-minute mile and you say it's a discipline problem. I'm going to be like, but I don't have the capacity. I don't have the training. I don't have the practice. I don't think that I can. So we got limiting beliefs, skill, potential skill deficit, fitness level, capacity, desire. Do I care about running a 6-minute mile? So that is something I've been kind of marinating on ever since I heard it this morning. There's a difference between knowing how to run 6-minute miles and being able and capable of doing it. And I do think coaches make this mistake, but clients definitely do too. They're trying to be at a level 10 or a level 8 when they're at a level 2, when they're trying to do things that they know how to do.
I think this is a good segue, because if they're trying to be at a level 10 or a level 8 and they are at a level 2, how do they set goals that are meaningful enough that they actually get there? And I think you had mentioned this today in terms of like sometimes too small isn't helpful for whatever reason. What reason is that?
Well, it's not motivating or attractive enough. So I think the example that I used in my post this morning was, if you told me to pour a glass of water, and that's really easy for me to do, I'm not going to care about continuing to, like, why is that meaningful to me? But if you give that task to someone who just had hand surgery and is at rehab to try to gain functionality of their hand, that could actually be a very good goal for them to have. So in coaching practice, where I see this kind of happen is, okay, if you have an overwhelmed client, we have a lot of those, and you say, you know what, let's just focus on water this week. Does your client even care about their water intake? I know I do this for a living, but I don't care about my water intake until I do. So that is what I mean by, like, can we set too small? Like, if the goal isn't attractive enough, if it's too easy, then it's not going to be motivating. And motivation is important. It is an important part of change. And that's another myth that I see thrown out there, that we just got to not care about motivation. It's not true. So the term that I used this morning was optimal challenge. How do we find that balance where it's not too easy, but also not too hard? It's sufficiently challenging to motivate us, but also it allows us to feel like we're striving for betterment, to be better, that we're actually getting better at something, that we're evolving, and we feel accomplished when we do it. And how do we help our clients feel accomplished more often? So that's why I caution coaches to look out for the too easy and collaborate with your client on that. I think I see coaches trying to find that answer first or for their client. You have to ask your client and enroll them in that process of, what do you feel like you are capable of over the next 7 days that you can reasonably expect to accomplish, that you will feel good about if you accomplish? Just a simple question like that's a really good start.
That's really good insight. How do you take that like 7-day frame and make it a lot wider, like a larger horizon, in terms of like how it ties into their bigger goals and bigger picture vision of themselves? Like, how do we extend past that point? Because maybe that goal is not big enough either. Like, how do we tie that stuff into it?
Well, I think you're always having the bigger goal in mind when you are setting those like 7 days. And sometimes the 7-day won't. But like I said, if you have a client who is overwhelmed for a short period of time, like maybe for the next couple of weeks, then you're going to kind of help them in that season. But you're always going to have, and I think we should be doing this in our intake forms and on that onboarding section, we're asking them, what is the bigger picture? What are we shooting for? Who is she? Who is that future version of you? What values does she have? What's her day-to-day look like? And then once you get all that information, you really can use that as your guiding star and break it down into those, okay, over the next 7 days or over the next 30 days, here, what do we want to work on? What do we want to see meaningful improvement at the end of the 30 days or what have you? That is going to be part of this larger picture that you've already kind of decided on in the beginning, would be my answer to that.
Awesome. No, that's helpful. I remember at that point, if you feel in your perception of someone's goals, like they're too large, like that conditional, that optimization just isn't there. Like, how do we navigate that situation between like not big enough, not important enough, but maybe like out of their reach, and finding the balance between that? Like, how do we navigate that conversation?
That's challenging. Do you have an example? Like, I think I can work off, like, if you have a client example that comes to mind by chance.
I have an example of one time I've seen it done so correctly that I was shocked, and we can use it as like a goalpost of like, this actually worked out. Have you read 10X is Easier Than 2X by Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Hardy?
No, I started it, but I have not finished it.
Did you not finish it because you didn't like it, or I wonder how far I go down this path?
No,
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, there's only so much to do. Anyways, one of the basic premises of that was that like sometimes by setting more like larger, more meaningful out of stretch goals, like the paths to get there become so few that you have no choice. Obviously, that's not going to work for everyone, but in some cases, the example I'm about to share, in the strength sports scene in my local community, we had a few athletes on the up and up, and one was going to go into Olympic weightlifting and try it for the first time. She had a background in powerlifting, but was like, you know what? I want to do Olympic weightlifting and I'm going to go to the Olympics. And I was thinking like at this point, she's probably like 22, like more advanced in terms of age and that kind of stuff. Like that's a wild goal. Like there's a lot of steps between there and going to the Olympics, let alone like so much genetic involvement and that kind of stuff. But she made this decision, and even I'm not a very accepting, positive person. And even in my mind, I was like, oh man, like kind of like eye roll, like how is this going to work type of thing. I remember one of the first things she did was like move away to the place where the most high profile athletes in our local community train. And before you know it, she was on the up and ups around like qualifying for the next meet and doing these things. And that like path to get there became so like she cut down the learning curve, the actual, habit development curve on those things so quickly that she didn't make the Olympics, but she got so much closer than she would have been by just being like, this is what I want to do. The path to there becomes so much more narrow and there's so many options. Either do them or I do not. And I get there. So to me, that's like the goalpost example around like, can you decide something and become that person and it works? Obviously, for many of us, we just can't drop what we're doing and start to act like professional athletes. But where does that fit into like all of this stuff? So that'd be like my first example around like, okay, that's the extreme. It works that way. But like, how does this fit in around like, how do we set goals that are now not realistic, but give us enough of a challenge?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's such a fun example. Like I said, I'm going to tease this out in real time. I think if you give me 20 minutes, I may have a more fleshed out answer, but I really enjoy doing future self work, which sounds really woo woo, but like I did this actually with my own coach who is ironically works for me, but she's fantastic. And on our first call, she's like, what is your like ultimate vision for who you want to, like, who is Sarah? Who is she 5 years, 10 years from now? And it was a very ambitious vision. I have the self-awareness to know that a lot of our people don't. But still, it can be beneficial to be like, who is that version? What does she do? What are her personal values? Who does she hang out with? What does she do on the weekends? How does she make decisions? And then we can kind of bring it back to a 3 or 6 month. I'd like to work within a 6 month kind of framework of to get to this like grandiose vision. What is something that we can narrow in and work to improve and target and create as many mastery experiences as possible within the next 6 months? And by mastery experiences, I mean, a lot of the things that our clients are doing is they need to build skill work. Like they need to build like self-regulation skills, problem solving skills and all of that. And as a coach, we can, with experience too, we can kind of already narrow in on what that could potentially be for them if they don't know themselves. And so we can offer some ideas and kind of give them a shorter time frame to work in, and then say, we're going to debrief about this month 5 or 6 to see where you're at, get a temperature check, like a progress report. And then we can kind of look at the next phase and how do we kind of get you to that level 2, then that level 3. And so that was probably what I would do. Now, I've had a handful of clients who wanted to lose 60 pounds in a year. My experience is that is going to take a year and a half. They would not, and I've asked them this because they did go on to lose 60 pounds in 18 months. And I said, what would you have done or said if I told you this on day 1, that it would take this long? And she would be like, I'd be upset or I'd be mad at you. I wouldn't want to hear it. And so I was like, well, what do we do with that? She's like, I don't know. And so I don't know that. Maybe sometimes I can say, or sometimes they'll ask me, is that a realistic goal? And then I can kind of come in and be like, here's what I've seen. But and other times I actually don't even go there. And I say, we can strive. I can't guarantee it, but what we can do is increase the probability of getting you as close as possible. And that tends to be sufficient for people. So I just had a client celebrate her 1 year with me. She's down 40 pounds. She wanted to lose 60 by her
Amazing.
50th. And she's like, you know what? I'm not there that I wanted to be by my 50th, but it couldn't have gone any other way. Like, this is exactly the journey I needed to be on. And I'm proud. And I know that I just need a few more months. So I do think if we do a good enough job, we can get a client there and hopefully they're not bummed or disappointed.
Yeah, that's helpful. I think a lot of times it's almost like you got to get people to see why it's in their best interest to go about it this way. You just telling them that is not going to be helpful. Like, it's just going to come right back to you.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
clients will also say week to week, they're like, oh, like the scale's not moving fast enough. And coaches go in and they're like, well, yeah, and here's why. I think we first got to stop and ask, well, what does progress look like to you? Like, at what rate would feel sufficient? Like, just kind of giving us some insight into how they're thinking and coming at this is really important. And then we could say at that point, I have some reflections on this kind of expectation. Would you like to hear? And be genuine, not as in a reprimand or correction. So yeah, I think coaches could probably do more asking of those types of questions.
Very cool. I know in the last little bit you guys have been looking to add coaching staff to Hard House Nutrition. I know so many of the coaches watching this type of stuff, either they're trying to do their own thing, but also probably many would really benefit from being part of a team and would love to be part of a team. I wanted to ask you this while I had you here, like, what are some of the things that you look for in a coach that you would be hiring? Like, what are some of those like attributes, characteristics? Obviously, maybe it's like knowledge and certifications, but what are maybe some of the more soft skills that would make someone like a really hireable, that's maybe not a word, hireable nutrition coach, or a coach that would work for a company like yours?
So let's say they do have the skills. There is such a thing as a culture fit, right? And that's really important. We have such a tight knit group of women. And so let's just say they know the behavior change side. Our clients come to us for that. So they would need to feel confident in being able to coach behavior change in the health and fitness space with our clients. So that aside, what I can appreciate about someone is if they have each person on our coaching team, we have our own like shtick. So I love the science of motivation. That's the lens through which I see a lot of stuff. I have a coach on our team who I think she has a self-efficacy theory that's like where she kind of lands with people. I have someone that's kind of more clinical. I have someone who is, you're going to leave her best friend, probably. Like, if you want like a best friend girls, I know I have the coach for you. Then I have another coach who is like very much into acceptance and commitment therapy, the elements and factors of that. She kind of deploys a lot in her coaching. So I like to look for someone who has her own or his own shtick, who's a little bit different, who can complement us really well. Someone who is comfortable with social media and I can see their personality on social media. We don't need someone to be viral or fantastic. We just want you visible. Our clients want to like see who you are. They're not, even though I bring in the majority, they're not working with me. They're working with you. So will they like you? What are you about? Are you a family person? Or are you not? Like, do you travel the world or do you not? So we're kind of looking for personality, charisma, and also someone who aligns with our values. We have our values listed out there. I don't know how you feel about this, but we're very much paying a close attention to the Make America Healthy Again and some of the problematic legislation coming out of that group. So we really need someone who's evidence-based and kind of aligns with those types of values. Something really important to us is also rejecting weight bias and size discrimination. We know that when people experience weight stigma, they're less likely to do health behaviors because there's a lot of shame involved. So we need someone who understands that art and that skill, art skill of coaching, not just the information.
If someone doesn't know their shtick, how would they discover that about themselves as a coach? Like, what makes them different? What lights them up? Like, how do they stand out? Be it like working for a company, but even finding it within your own self.
I feel like, and I'd actually be curious about your answer because I think mine it comes with experience. I worked with the wrong clients to know that's not what I wanted to work with. So I think over time, and then of course it could be based on personal experience. Mine is emotional eating, all or nothing thinking, and self-sabotage. So I definitely really connect with those types of people. But I have a coach on the team who works best with people who undereat, right? That overexerciser, undereater. So mine, I think it's based on experience. Would you Is that what you would say for yourself?
I think so. I think based on just talking to you, it sounds like, man, it's the thing that you can't stop thinking about. It's the thing that you're just enters your brain and you're trying to figure out. And maybe that's just an extension of like who we are or the type of coaches we want to be, but it's like figuring out what those things are. So it's just like, yes, developing some self-awareness and trying to get closer to that stuff, but that's probably going to get us closer to what is going to make us stand out or our shtick. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you nailed it with the can't stop thinking about it. You probably know that about me, is that I'm pretty obsessed with this type of stuff. So yeah.
That's amazing. I do want to wrap things up quickly, but I'm not gonna. I don't know if I should even ask it because I don't think it's a quick answer. But you talked about self-acceptance and weight stigma and all those things. Like, how do we coach people that like should be happy with where they're at, but also wanting change and finding the balance between those two things and being okay that like both of these are great, but we still want something different. Like, how do we navigate that? Because you had mentioned those words, and that's something that I definitely think about all the time.
Mm-hmm. I'll try to keep that short. You and I were talking, and you had said like self-love, and I was actually going to be like, I don't know if self-love is what we're going for in the beginning. As much as I like read into research or what the researchers saying, I haven't seen self-love come up anywhere, but I have seen acceptance. And the way that I define that is we're not arguing with reality. So when I say like there should be some self-acceptance, if you are coming to me in like a 300-pound body, that is what you are coming at today. Like, and you're coming to me with your strengths, with your limiting beliefs, potential weaknesses, like, and kind of accepting your current capacity. I know you're going to want to go from 0 to 100, but what if we can only go 0 to 30? There is a sense of like, if we can accept and work with what we've got, then we can troubleshoot and work on a plan from there. But if you're going to come to me and be like, I'm so unacceptable, I'm unworthy, I'm terrible, I'm gross, I'm disgusting, then you're just trying to, that's going to be a suboptimal motivator. And you're going to have more trouble sticking with the plan than you think. And so I'm like, how do we bring in some more self-respect, self-compassion, which does encompass some kind of that internal tough love, but it should not be self-deprecating because that's not going to be effective. So that's my short answer of what could be a very long answer.
That's a good one. Yeah, that self-deprecating stuff, that self-hate stuff, it's not cool, man. Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Sarah, that was so good and very, very helpful. And I know, number one, getting some comments here. I could listen to Sarah talk all day. I need to listen to this one. I think personally, I don't know if you do any video-based stuff anywhere, but we need more of it. The people need more of it. They're asking for it. We'll have to do this again. Okay, does that sound good?
Oh, yes, please. I'll be sad if we don't.
Sounds good. One thing, if you're watching this, you're watching the replay, you're checking things out, Sarah's going to have a resource for everyone that I'm going to link up in our coaching resources, but you got to register for the actual symposium to get your hand on that. We've got 5 free lessons on using behavior change in your coaching. Check that out by registering. I'm also going to link Sarah's social media if you haven't checked her out already down in the description below. So check that stuff out and then we'll go from there. But thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you. This was fun.
Very fun. All right. That's the end of day 1, gang. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Now, as great as all those tips are, maybe you're still wondering how to start or grow your nutrition coaching. Here's what I want you to do. Go to the first link down in the description below, and you'll get all the details on our Nutrition Coaching Academy certification. It's a 90-day program that'll give you everything you need to start nutrition coaching or to take your nutrition coaching business to the next level. Check out all the details down in the link below, and thanks for watching.